I'm kind of thinking to start with the listening circle first because, like, for me, it's just such an important part of the circle. So, okay, let's start talking about the
That's
listening circle.
yes.
Um, okay, so first of all, why do I call it the listening circle? Ha ha ha. Most people call it a talking circle. And while we talk, it's true, people talk. I think it is much more about listening, and we listen much more than we talk. Because when I imagine sitting in a circle, and the way it works is every person gets his time, her time to speak, and the others listen, first of all. So we spend so much more time listening than we actually spend talking. And I also make it about listening because I feel like once we talk about talking, everybody always is like, oh no, I gotta speak in front of other people. And then it all goes into the mind, and I'm thinking, okay, what am I gonna say? Like, and it becomes this process of the mind. And it also moves into where, when like the first woman, for example, starts talking, everybody's not listening, but they're thinking about what am I going to say. And I want people to not do that. Because I don't know how do you know this book, what's it called again, the Celestine Prophecies?
Yes, I do.
They have this one scene where he starts seeing the energies of people, and he goes and there's a discussion of people, and they're all sitting in a circle, and he sees how one person is talking and the other people send him their energy. And I think it works exactly like that. In the moment when we consciously listen and really concentrate on listening and concentrate on the other person, we give that person energy. No, my energy flow by listening goes to you, and it makes your talking easier. It makes your flow easier. It takes away these barricades, these blockages. I always, like, for me, I learned that when I was studying a different language, when I was in South America and studying Spanish. I felt that when I had someone to talk to who was concentrated on listening to me and who would really want to understand what I'm talking about, I had so much more energy for speaking, and it would be so much easier for me to express myself. And I think that's like a thing that we become aware of more, and we can practice that. And in the listening circle, I feel we practice exactly that. No, we practice opening up and having this energy exchange where one person is empowered to speak by the other people listening. So listening is actually a very active thing. No, it's
Yes.
not just sitting down and not talking.
I
It's
like
actually much more than that.
listening is active.
Yeah.
It is an
Yeah.
act.
Yeah, it's an act of giving attention and of giving love and of really, and of also letting it vibrate inside you. So in the circle, when I listen to other women speak, it always touches some part of me. And we've had that a lot in circles where people speak that, where they're like, wow, everything that the other woman said, it just touched something inside of me. And I think when you open into the space of listening, then that is what can happen. Then it allows the person to be guided from within and to be really connected. No, it's about connection. And then more can come up. You know, it's not just my story. I speak everyone's story in that moment.
Right. Oh.
Yeah. Well, that's like if I really, would go into it and think about it profoundly. And well, I also call it listening circle because it's about listening to yourself. And that I think is probably the most important aspect. And I always say nobody needs to understand but you. Which I think it takes a lot of pressure away, because it takes away this I'm talking to other people and I want them to know my story. No, that's really not what it is about. It's about listening into your own heart. This is why a lot of times before the listening circle, I do some kind of exercise that brings us into this heart space. Some kind of meditation, breathing, something that connects us to the heart and that opens the heart. And then basically all of the time we sing before we speak, to bring this energy from the heart into the throat. And it's really like, when I think about the energetic body and the chakras, for example, I really see it like that. No, I open the heart, I activate the heart, and then I move from the heart to the throat in order to express my heart. So it's not coming down from my mind into my throat, it comes up from my heart into my throat. And I think this is like something, that we don't do in everyday life. In everyday life, the mind dictates what we say. And so it can be very deep for people to actually speak the heart, to actually feel, okay, what is happening inside of me? And then to speak that, to open that out. Because it's so many times we don't speak our feelings. No, it's like, and so many times we think that we have to explain everything. That's why I say nobody needs to understand. You can just whatever comes up is okay. It's not about sharing your story with the other women, even though sharing, of course, I appreciate sharing, but in that listening circle, I don't think it's about sharing yourself with others. It's about connecting to what you have to say to yourself in the end. I always think of it as a monologue, and the function of the other women around is to give you the energy to connect and to open that up. So I always say, it's like, talk to yourself. It's okay. We're just sitting here witnessing you and giving you this attention and energy so you can really go deeper into yourself. So it's very much about listening to yourself. And it's often that we need to hear ourselves speak certain things in order to even understand it, in order to even if I have this feeling inside of me and I've never spoken the feeling, I've never expressed it in words, then I may not understand my feeling. But once I speak it, once I hear myself say certain things, then it changes something inside you. It's like it can bring a much deeper understanding of yourself and of your own story and of your own feelings. And this is one of the reasons why I often talk about getting away from the story. No, it's not about my neighbor did this to me and this is why I'm angry and blah blah blah, the whole whatever story there is. It's not about any other people. It's only about how do you feel right now and what is good for you. How can you heal yourself? What can you do for yourself?
Yes. What can you take accountability for over your own self? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and then well, I've made the experience that sometimes it's tricky for people to just, speak the heart without anything.
Yeah.
So I do find a theme, and I don't make it very strict. I always, my themes are kind of open. But
Mhm.
especially for the listening circle, it's good sometimes to have like something to talk about, because it's like something to hold on to, it's like a question, for example, more than just the how do you feel and what does your heart say. Because I think it's like we're not used to this inquiry. We're not used to listening to our hearts. Like, I don't know what it says, but if I say, what does it say about, um, I don't know, being more compassionate about for yourself, or I don't know, whatever I choose to be the main topic, and this topic mostly comes from what's happening with me right now. I have to admit that I just check what's going on with me, and then I make this the theme, and it works.
Yeah, it seems that it pulls a lot of people in for relating with one another. Absolutely. Can I ask you a question? In your time that you've spent in different parts of the world, you mentioned that it's hard for some people to sometimes just be able to speak without having something to speak about. Do you find that that's sort of more cultural locally, or have you found that in all the places that you've interacted?
That's a very good question. I would say it's a cultural thing, but the culture is worldwide.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think like the biggest difference I would point to would be what I experienced in South America. And there, I mean, I was also, the people that I was dealing with were very, unique people. And I think it's more because there I found a part of myself that I was not aware of before.
Mm.
So, of course, I was opening up to something inside of me.
Mm.
And that, of course, enabled me to be around more openly heart-centered people. I kind of feel it's like a consciousness development thing. No, there's people that are very open and that will only speak from the heart. And there's a lot of people that are completely separated from this part of themselves.
Mm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I would say it's like a kind of personal journey for everyone to get
Yeah.
to that place. But yeah, it's like, once you are on that journey, there's, yeah, you can always go there. I don't know, like once I found that place in myself, I can go there. And even if I don't want to go there all the time, because there might be things that I don't want to see, for example,
Mhm.
um, I can. Yeah, and I think this is one of the things that's really important, if you guide a circle, that you go to that place. It's not like I can't ask everyone else to speak from their heart, but I'm totally in my head. That's not going to work.
Right. That sounds
So I
wise.
have to go to that place. And I mean, it's not always a happy place. It's not always a beautiful place. There's can be a lot of emotional stuff going on, that I don't really want to show, but then it's not about showing. It's about being seen.
Mm.
For me, they're two different things, and about being heard, but it's not about explaining myself. I'm not going to explain myself. This is not what I'm here to do. I'm here to open to myself and express whatever I find inside there.
I like that. There's a difference between showing and seeing.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, that's a cultural thing too, no? We're so, yeah, mentally focused on like, oh, this person is showing themselves, you know, and showing off, and like, I don't know, it's the media totally, you know, like for me, it's like, I don't have a television. I don't care about all that. So I'm like happy without it.
Oh man, I wish we could
Very
be
much
there.
about that, you know, and all the social media and all of that. It's a lot about showing yourself and not so much about seeing. And that's why in the circle, you know, I think we have to turn stuff around, and we have to focus on exactly the things that we want to cultivate.
It's interesting what you just said. In a circle, we have to turn things around,
Mm-hmm.
which is, that's another discussion about the circular nature of life.
Yeah.
I'm writing as we go.
That's great. So yeah, maybe let's jump to the themes. And well, so if I look for a theme for a circle, I think it's good to have a theme. I don't think it's necessary. You could just do circle, and that would be theme enough. On the other hand, it really helps to have something else. And I always kind of see it as something that I put into the center of my circle and let it radiate out from there.
Like
And
a focal point.
yeah, a focal point, exactly, because it's easier for people if they have a focal point. It just makes stuff easier. I don't exactly know why, but it's like to only be kind of brought back to yourself, and that's it. It's a little bit scary. You know, but and then it's like so big too, you know, there can be so much, and if I concentrate on one aspect, then it kind of breaks it down a little bit, and it gives me this possibility to go step by step, to take baby steps, so to say. You know, I don't have to explore my whole self at once and be like confronted with all of it at once, but I can go like little steps. And I think this is like, it helps in a circle. It helps in the setting to have some kind of overarching theme. And that can be totally open. No, it can be a very broad theme. So the way I'm searching for themes, I found that for me, the moon signs, like the zodiac, works. I'm not a very big astrologer, but I feel that, well, the reason is because I do it on the new moons. Then, or like close to the new moon. I'm not actually doing it on the new moon most of the time, because we're doing weekends most of the time to allow more women to come. And this is also one of the things that I always feel like it's more important to meet than to meet on a specific day. You know, it's not about we have to meet on the new moon and only then the energy is strong enough. For me, it's more like we create the energy, you know, and if I do it 2 days after the new moon or 5 days before, like literally to me, it doesn't matter. But I use the new moons as a guiding point, and I found it very, I don't know, for me, it works. And it's also because I like that the zodiac signs, you can connect them to the elements. So we talked about the elements in the opening the circle ceremony, and then I don't know, for me it feels natural. And I think that's one of the important things. No, it has to feel natural for you. If you create a theme, it has to make sense for you.
Right.
It cannot be, I mean, I also have, you know, books that talk about all the things here. I'm going to show like one book, The Grandmother of Time.
Ooh, okay.
And it has like every month, it talks about all the different holidays there are and different stuff that's going on in the month. I have not used this book a lot. I just wanted to bring like some kind of example. It's possible to, you know, go through a book like that. But I always trust my feeling. You know, I'm never gonna go with what the book says if I don't feel it. So for me, I often concentrate on the element that we are in. So for example, we have Aries moon, it's a fiery element, and we work with fire, and then I think of, okay, what does that represent for me? Or like I search for information, I look at websites, books, and I look at it as inspiration. And often stuff just comes up. I don't even have to research. Or like I already know, for example, next moon will be Gemini. Well, Gemini is an Aries sign, and also it's the twins. So it's like looking into the mirror, it's finding those two sides in us, it's balancing. It's like, I don't know. So I just let whatever comes up come up. And I do that, for example, free writing. That really, really works. If you're looking for what is important for you in this month, for this circle, just sit down and write and let whatever comes up come up. You know, just write keywords, and then when you look at them, you will see which ones are the important ones and which ones are not. I think writing is a little bit like speaking stuff out loud. You know, when I write something, I can look at it after, and then I can see, okay, what is true for me and what is just an idea. So yeah, for me, writing totally works. That is one of the ways that I look into what I want to happen in the circle too. So yeah, I'm looking for inspiration, and then I kind of try to integrate it. So mostly like I start thinking about the circle about a week before, I would say, more or less.
Okay.
And I just go with my flow. You know, if I'm not gonna push myself to be like, sit down now and study for the circle. That's not gonna work. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
It always strikes me as like a no force situation.
Yeah. It has to be. Anything forced, it would stop the energy. You know, it would not work. It would not circle. So yeah, I think most of the times, like a week before, I start thinking about it and I start looking, and sometimes I really research if I'm interested in it, and if I feel like this month or this topic that comes up, or if I haven't worked with that moon sign, for example, then I research a little bit more and I read some more things. And I have like one website, for example, that I read is about herbals. It's a herbal lady, and she does moon and sun sign, and she has like a really cool just description of each sign and how it's connected to the body, and like on herbs and flowers and I don't know what, you know. And I just look at things, and then I pick out the things that call my attention. So it's never the same. It's not like I have strict protocol or something, or always, you know, I have to work with the flower and with this and with the I don't know, energy of the sign. And it's also, I think it has to be connected to you. No, it is your way of exploring this topic. And so I explore the topic for myself, and I try to come to a place where I feel I'm integrating it, where I feel I am connected to this right now, and I have actually something, I don't know, something to give maybe. So yeah, this is like how I decide what I will bring into the circle. And I have to admit, or I will admit, that there are probably like signs or topics where I do not go as deep as I could because I'm not ready for it. And
Right,
I
right,
think it's good to honor yourself. If I'm not ready for this, I'm not going to bring it into the circle because I have to hold the circle. And so I bring things that are more comfortable for me to talk about. If
right.
I don't want to, if I don't feel like I can talk about my sexuality in the circle, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to bring this up. And I think it's okay to, to do that. I think it's not about pushing yourself. It's
Right.
about seeing where you can go. It's of course a little bit about getting to your boundaries. It's like exploring where I can go. And I will go to places that are not 100% comfortable. I will explore these places, but I will not go into a place that triggers deeper like work for me that I haven't done yet.
Ah, it's almost like the difference between an expedition and a, I don't want to say a conquest, but something like the difference between exploring and achieving.
Yeah. And it's also about like I want to guide, so I can only guide people to a place where I have been and where I know the way. And if I
Mm,
don't know the way, then I cannot guide you there. I'm not going to throw people into a space where I don't feel safe. I have to feel safe with it and I have to feel comfortable with it. And that is like the work that you have to do for yourself.
mm.
So yeah, there's many different ways to do that, I think. Um, but yeah, so this is how I find the theme. I think I'm gonna show my second book. This one of my favorite books is totally like falling apart.
Oh,
It's called The 13 Original Clan Mothers. And
oh
this is
wow.
a book that speaks about the 12 months, no, 13, yeah, 13 moons as grandmothers. So you could, for example, take a book like this as a guide and
Mm,
go through each chapter each month, and then you have something that you can work on and then you share it. I think that would be a possibility. If you feel like, I don't know, zodiac signs are not my thing or something, and I'm sure there's more books like that. There's many different ideas that you could work with 13 goddesses. I'm not really into goddesses so much, but I know a lot of people are, and I think it's beautiful work, and it's nice to um, work with these aspects of yourself and look into yourself through this lens.
right.
Yeah, for me, I think elements are the easiest, and there's always more to explore. Like fire, water, air, earth. They are just like, for me, they are the base. And
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure where that's coming from. I just know it's always been there. And for me, working with that frame really works.
Because it's both simple and exponentially complex, and you make it as complex as you need it to be for whatever guidance you're doing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And I know, for example, that there's elements that I feel more comfortable with and others where I feel, okay, I'm working on this, there's stuff that's coming up for me. And yeah, it's good to find a balance between like how much, like where will I put myself? No, I'm not going to put myself in danger. And that's not because I don't want to look good. It's
Hmm.
okay, I don't have to look good all the time. I can totally admit that I'm not comfortable with that. Um, but it's about, you have to hold the energy. So if you're like breaking down, it's not gonna work. But if you cry, for example, that's totally okay. As I said, in my very first circle, I cried. I was
Right, 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 right.
totally like overtaking my stuff, and that opened the way. And I think that was a little bit like a little initiation or something like that, to experience myself in the situation, to be seen when I'm crying, to be seen when I'm so emotional and when it's just coming out.
Mhm.
And once I experience that for myself, I can hold other people in it. Now when someone is crying, I'm feeling them. I know what it feels like, and I can hold this. I can hold the energy. It's, I can just be there and let them cry and, be even happy about them crying, support them in that. So I think it's good to find this balance of what you explore for yourself, because you have to make these experiences. I think it's very important to be able to guide others through it. Yeah.
And being able to support each other rather than affect each other in some way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good. For sure. Yeah, because, it's all about supporting each other. For sure. That is like the main thing, the main reason why we're doing this. So, yeah, and then when I think about what I do or what I want for the circle, if I like when I set an intention, I have tried many different ways. I've tried to just write it. The woman that I learned from, she said that you should write on a piece of paper, what does spirit want to happen in the circle? And then you write. And I tried that a few times and it was a little bit weird for me. It doesn't like 100% work. But of course, like I'm thinking, okay, where do I want to go with that? If I think, for example, okay, we got the moon in Gemini and it's about reflection. So how do I, I want people to look deep, but I don't want to leave them with just seeing the ugly part of themselves. It's like it has to be, for me, it has to have a kind of positive outlook. I think that is really important for me. So I want a kind of transformation or a growth process or an integration of parts of ourselves that we have neglected, or an exploration of parts that we haven't looked at. Or I think those would be intentions for me.
Okay.
And I rarely set a very clear intention, and I'm not sure if that's good. I think it's good to have a very clear intention, but for me, I think I rarely write it out. I rarely like say this is my intention and then I got the one sentence. It's more like a feeling. So, and that is like how it works for me, because I know, like, well, basically deep down, I know the general intention of the circle itself. And then it for me is, I think, more important to see what comes up and how I can work with it.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I think though, I think it's a good practice to set clear intentions. And especially in the beginning, I did that more in the beginning, when I actually had a plan. Now I don't have such a concrete plan anymore, so I don't have, I have a broader intention, I would say. not such a specific as, okay, in this circle, I want everyone to explore their dark side and to integrate it.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's like, okay, of course, this can be your intention, but then you have to maybe live with that it's not going to be fulfilled because maybe it's a too big an intention, you know, maybe this is like, you have to take baby steps, you know, you have to take this step, you have to be open to change and open to taking the steps that are necessary and not the steps that you plan to take.
Perhaps clear intentions can be useful when trying to achieve a specific intention. And then like having a loose, you know, not having a plan, having a loose format, having giving everybody the opportunity to set their intention for themselves allows for group work and the flow of energy among many people. I can see how just kind of adjusting how much intention will adjust what kind of an outcome you get.
Yeah. And how much I'm holding on to that too. You know, I mean, I can have the best intentions, but if the energy doesn't flow, it doesn't flow. So
Right.
then my intentions don't matter, you know, then I have to just work with what is. And I think it's good to come back to what is. So once I enter this circle, once I open the circle, I don't open it with focusing on my intention. I can focus on my intention before. I think when I prepare it, when I think of what wants to be done, you know, when I just write down ideas. Like I often do that. No, I just write down ideas and then it just builds itself. I think of, okay, this seemed for me, and then I have an idea, okay, so we could go there for the meditation, and then after that we could go there for another process. We could do a little artsy thing, or we should write something, you know, and this kind of all creates itself. I always feel it's like, for me, literally, because I think it's also because I start this process a week before. I'm not going to do it a day before because that will stress me. You know, then I'm going to be like, oh my God, you know, I don't have enough ideas. What am I going to do now? And then I try to push it. So I'm not pushing it. I'm letting it flow. I just look into it and see where it takes me and see what comes up for me. I draw the circle sometimes before the circle.
I was just gonna
Dive into
ask
it.
you if you felt a relationship between creativity and art and the same process that we go through when we're creating a new work. If we sit down with a specific idea in our head, we might get a disappointing result. But if we sit down and let that creation come together in the way that it's almost sort of pre-meant to be,
Yeah.
then it flows, right?
Yes. And I think that is like the magic of the circle, because you're not, you know, I'm not working on myself. I'm not creating my artwork. We are creating a common, a bigger. And
Okay.
that's the thing. Like, once I think about something bigger than myself, then I can set an intention for myself. Like, how do I want to guide this circle? What do I want to bring into the circle? How do I want to open up for myself? What do I want to explore for myself too? You know, it's not just about me holding the circle, but it's also about me bringing my process into the circle. And I think that is a valuable thing to do. I think, you know, because I have to be part of it. I need to be part of it. I cannot be the one that's sitting there and just, you know, doing the guidance, but I'm kind of stepping back, you know, then I'm not actually in the circle. I have to be in the circle and I have to go through my processes too. And that's like, for me, it always helps me if I speak really openly about my struggles, about my challenges, about stuff that's going on. And I use that to make the circle more accessible for everyone else. Because if I speak about something that I feel very uncomfortable around, for example, then this opens the way for other women to look into that space. But if I'm always the woman that's like the shiny, shiny guide with like the glowy aura, and I'm like all perfect, then people are just gonna feel weird, they're gonna be like, oh no, but I'm not that perfect and I have all my problems. No, it's about bringing all your crap into there. And of course, I choose, I'm not gonna, as I said, I'm not gonna go into places that I cannot hold for myself. I need to, but I'm pushing it for sure. I'm going to places where I feel very uncomfortable. And that helps, it makes it easier. And it makes it easier also to be true to myself. I speak my truth. And this, like, if you speak your truth as the guide, this opens the way for everyone else. If you just talk about how beautiful everything is as the guide, then, well, everybody's gonna, it's gonna scrape on the surface. It's not gonna go deep. You have to go deep yourself. That is the magic. I like firmly believe that. That's where the magic's at.
I love that.
So yeah, sometimes I've had that a few times, that it was kind of like insecure about the circle. And I just started drawing it. And it's funny because like several times I drew exactly all the women in the circle. They were in my picture, like one time I was like, oh my God, is anybody gonna come? And I was, okay, I just gotta let go of that. And I just started drawing, and I drew my circle, and my circle had like 8 circles in it, and 8 women showed up. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And yeah, I think for me, a big step is to get out of the head, to get out of, like, once you feel comfortable, once you have all the information you need, once you connected to it, like really connected to it inside, like really explored the theme for yourself, then get out of it, forget about it. I think that's really important. To not get stuck there. And mostly, I don't lecture anything. I'm not like talking about how the moon is in Gemini right now and this means that, and I may mention it somewhere, but I'm never reading out the moon energies or something like this. I know there's people that do that and it might help, but for me, I don't want any outside information. This is not what I put into the circle. And it might help, especially if you, for example, work with the different goddesses or something, then of course, you read something about them, but I would always bring it into my own story first. I would always connect to it first and then speak out of this place of myself where it's connected. So I'm speaking out of the place of myself where I am connected to the air element, where I am connected to Geminis, where I'm connected to this, not where I'm bringing in a book and reading out what somebody else says about Gemini. This is like not, this doesn't work for me.
I feel like the people who make those things are all part of a bigger, finer tapestry, and each person has their own special relationship with the universe and how that information comes to us. And they set up pillars for us, like we have the pillars of astrology and we have the pillars of moon work. Yeah. But if it's not allowing to let energy flow for us to really dive into that discipline or that study or whatever, then fine. There's somebody else out there who has a very special gift to be able to work with that.
Yeah. And with these things, sometimes I, for example, encourage other, if I know that we have a woman in our circle who's totally into astrology, so if I would like to have someone presented from a bigger picture, I would ask
Mhm.
her. I would not go into a place where I'm talking about stuff that I'm not 100% sure of and that I don't really feel is part of me. I would invite someone else, for example, and I think that is something great to do, once you get to know the women in your circle, if you have people that come back all the time,
Right,
then
right, right.
it's nice to um, involve them,
Hmm. It permits in perspective, very like different perspectives. I mean, what is a work of art without the different interpretations of it?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, so but I know there's different ways of finding a theme. I think the most important aspect is to connect to the theme, to not have, I'm not bringing anything in the circle that's outside of me. It has to be inside of me.
Mm,
And then I can bring it to the circle in a honest way.
I like
Yeah, and it needs to be integrated. And even if I'm not, 100% integrated with it, or I don't feel like I've mastered it or whatever, then I bring my struggle in, and that's totally fine too. And I'm sure, or like I have made the experience 100% of the times, if I bring my struggle in, then that is what needs to be brought in, that is what creates the magic there.
right.
Yeah,
Oh,
so don't be afraid to bring your own challenges in the circle. That is what it's all about. Yeah.